Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Pitch Optimization webinar as part of the NI Clinical Entrepreneur Programme. This webinar, led by Una McSorley of Marcom Training, will provide you with the skills that you need to pitch effectively to audiences. Una's presentation will last approximately 45 minutes, and the webinar will conclude with a short question and answer session. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please pop them into the question and answer box, and we'll aim to get through as many as we can at the end of the presentation. I'll now hand over to Una for today's webinar.
Thank you very much for joining us today, and I'm really looking forward to this session where I'll be taking you through how to write, structure and deliver a great 60-second pitch as part of your application process for the NHS Clinical Entrepreneur Programme. I'm Una McSorley, and one of the areas that I specialise in is helping companies to pitch their product or service. I've worked with over 600 businesses to help them develop their pitches, whether to attract investment, increase sales, or simply take the conversation further. I completely understand that the very thought of delivering a video 60-second pitch can bring you out in a cold sweat. As we go through today's session, I hope to give you the confidence to concisely write that 60-second pitch and deliver it with impact without breaking into a cold sweat. To do that, I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey, and we're going to begin by looking at the importance of a 60-second pitch. We're then going to look at how to pull your content together, and finally, how to structure it and deliver it with impact. Because no matter how good your content is and how clear your structure is, if your delivery is poor, you're not going to make that meaningful connection with your audience. When might you need a 60-second pitch? Typically, the answer I get is in an elevator. And yet, how many of us on this webinar have actually delivered a 60-second pitch in an elevator? The concept of an elevator pitch is that you have an outline of your idea, you have an outline of your business, or you have an outline of your service, ready to deliver in the space of an elevator ride. And it will grab the attention of the other person, so much so that they will want to find out more about what you do. We never know when that situation may occur. It could just as easily happen on the street or in a coffee shop. The reality is that we never know who we're going to run into. And if we aren't able to quickly and clearly explain what we do and who we are, the chances are we're going to be missing out on opportunities every single day. And so to answer the question, where might you need an elevator pitch? You always need one, because you never know when you're going to get asked for one. You never know when an opportunity is going to present itself. So always make sure you've got one in your back pocket. A video elevator pitch takes the process out of the elevator, out of the coffee shop, or out of the conference room, and puts it directly in your potential customer's inbox, or in your case, directly into the hands of the assessor for the NHS Clinical Entrepreneur Programme. Seth Godin said, "The purpose of an elevator pitch is to describe a situation or solution so compelling that the person you're with wants to hear more, even after the elevator ride is over." When somebody meets you in an elevator pitch or in a very, very quick conversation, the best outcome is that the other individual says, "You know, that sounds really interesting. We need to have a chat about that. Why don't we set up a meeting?" And that is really the best success criteria you should aim for when you're writing a 60-second elevator pitch. not to raise that £1 million investment, not to get that person on board in your company, but simply to have another conversation. Very rarely is that £1 million raised off a 60-second pitch, but the conversation that the pitch led to is what resulted in that investment. So if you get another conversation, another chat, or a formal meeting booked in off the back of your 60-second pitch, then it's worked for you. In this case, your 60-second video pitch will work for you if you secure a place on the NHS Clinical Entrepreneur Programme. So to do that, you've got to prepare and upload an introductory 1-minute video elevator pitch, which must be delivered in 60 seconds or less. And the purpose of the first video is to introduce yourself, introduce your idea, and to show to the assessor how entrepreneurial you are. You also have the option to supplement this with another 1 minute on any one of the following 4 questions. What NHS need does your innovation meet, and how does it positively impact patients? What research have you undertaken to explore how your innovation impacts different populations? What research have you undertaken into the market and competition for your innovation? And the final question, where do you realistically see yourself and or your innovation in 5 years, and how do you intend to get there? So your option is to pick one of those 4 questions and deliver an additional 60-second pitch answering the one that you have chosen. How do you go about creating the content for your video elevator pitch? It's about developing the right message, and that's about knowing what to leave in and what to leave out. The first question you need to think about is, how many words can you say in 1 minute and still remain understandable? Research shows that you could say around 150 words per minute in a normal conversation and still be understood. And that equals roughly 7 sentences. The first content rule for you, therefore, is there should be no more than 150 words in your 60-second pitch. 150 words should be the maximum. And when you're writing your pitch, keep the word count close at hand. And I totally recommend that you write it down and create a full script. Not a few bullet points that you intend talking to, but your full script. 150 words won't look like an awful lot on the page, but if you add in any more, you'll run the risk of speaking too quickly or giving people information overload. If you've ever been in that scenario, you're just going to switch off, and that's not the way to get a place on this program. It's so important to stick to the time that you've been given. And no matter how complex your idea is, you should still be able to distill it down to 60 seconds. You've been given 60 seconds, so stick to it and do not overrun. From my experience, most people struggle when it comes to writing. One of the biggest drawbacks when it comes to writing an effective script is the writer's lack of confidence. It's interesting because all of the entrepreneurs I meet are absolutely passionate people who believe 100% in what they're doing. But when we ask them to explain it, that confidence wanes and their commitment gets drowned in techno babble, making it really difficult for the listener to understand and connect. Yet, when you hear a pitch that is delivered with confidence, it says to the audience, trust me, you're in good hands. So if all we need is confidence, what's stopping us? What's making us so nervous that we can't form the words? I think it's fair to say that confidence has a number one enemy, and that number one enemy is fear. What are we frightened of? The fear of failure, the fear of criticism, the fear of rejection, and believe it or not, sometimes the fear of success. For the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through the 7 deadly wins to more confident content. And it will come as no surprise that less really is more. You know how when you're feeling unsure of yourself, there's a tendency to babble. Well, I know I do. You feel you want to compensate for the gaps by filling them with, well, anything. Insecure writers do the same thing. They fill every bit of white space with stuff that no one really wants to hear. Actually, there is another side of that coin that I call the curse of knowledge, which is almost as bad. When you suffer from the curse of knowledge, you assume that the other person or the other people know the things that you do, and this cognitive bias causes you to believe that people understand you a lot better than they really do. How do you overcome that? Easy. Keep things simple. It's easier to make an impact when you keep things really simple. The fact of the matter is that you cannot guarantee that anybody that you speak to will have the same level of knowledge or the same level of interest in what you're talking about. Chances are that you may run into somebody that has no knowledge of what it is that you do, but they can open doors if they understand enough about what you do. The best stories are simple. A couple of well-made points relevant to your audience will do the trick. We also say, speak like a human. Acronyms or abbreviations or technical jargon that may sound second nature to you, but they're not to your listener. They probably wouldn't know what they mean, and if that was the case, then the chances are they'll switch off, and that's not the outcome that you want to achieve from your 60-second pitch. So strip away those acronyms, strip away those abbreviations, and strip away the technical jargon. We also say fun is permissible. It's not about telling a funny joke or making the audience necessarily laugh. It's as simple as you smiling and showing the listener that you're enjoying telling them your story. The fact of the matter is, audience sense when the speaker has enjoyed delivering their pitch, and it rubs off. You've also got to mind your language. Language is so important when pitching. So often during pitches, I hear, we'll hopefully raise our investment at the middle of next year, and we'll probably take our product to market in January. Hopefully, probably, maybe, possibly. Don't convey certainty or conviction or that the individual is in control. But if they just turn that sentence round, we are actively raising investment with a view to taking our product to market in January. They haven't told me anything different. They haven't overpromised. They haven't lied. They've used confident language that makes me, the listener, feel like, okay, they're not where they want to be yet, but they are in control of where they're going. We also say, only connect. Good pitches make emotional connections. So it's important that you know who you want to connect with when you go to write your pitch. Great content has that laser focus on its audience. When they hear it, they know it's for them. What you've got to do is state your case. If you need them to do something, tell them what you want them to do and why. ask for your place on the program. You've made your point. What do you want these people to do? Sum it up and include that action that you want them to take. Give me a place on the program so that I can scale my innovative idea for the benefit of patients, staff, and the wider NHS. So that's it. Stick to those 7 principles and you'll feel much more confident about what you're writing. After all, your pitch is too short to fill it with stuff no one cares about. So be confident. Aim high. Having thought about your content, we now need to think about our structure. In her great book, Content Rules, Anne Handley talks about finding your writing navigational system or your GPS. In her book, she says, we need to respect our audiences and accept that when we're writing a script, we have a responsibility to inform and help, not annoy or bore people to death. The best way to respect your audience is to find your writing GPS system. She talks about having a clear process, which can help with the enormity of the task. It's about embracing clarity, it's about embracing brevity, and it's about embracing utility. Clarity is all about being crystal clear so that you don't force the listener to work hard to understand you. Brevity is about cutting out all that drivel and getting to the point. And finally, utility is about making it useful. Listeners will only listen to your pitch if what you've written has something in it for them. And what your audience needs to hear is that you have an innovative idea that will benefit patients, staff, and the wider NHS. Many of the best stories use the traditional 3-act story arc to tell a compelling story. The setup, conflict, resolution. You can easily mirror this format by writing your script in a way that satisfies this story arc. Start by outlining the problem, present a solution, and have a clear call to action. Structuring your elevator video script this way makes it so much easier for the assessor to understand how your innovative idea can be scaled for the benefit of all. You need a roadmap that will take you from a set of confusion to a coherent script. After all, anything good or valuable takes planning and preparation. It just doesn't emerge fully formed and into your laptop. If it did, none of you would be sitting here today listening to me. When we think about the process, start with the goal. Then think about your audience and their needs. How much research do you need to undertake to really understand the issue? What sort of structure will you use to build your script around? Now you're ready to write that first ugly draft. We always recommend walking away from it at this stage and then going back to rewrite or at the very least amend. You'll also need to think about the title or the topic for your script. You then have to edit it. You've got to edit what you've written to make sure that it makes sense in the spoken word. So try it out loud before you record. And then, when that's all done, hit send. Let's break this down into more manageable steps. I'm going to walk you through our 5-step process, and we will look at each of these steps in turn. The first step is to start to think about your objective. What is the objective of your pitch? Before you start crafting your pitch, consider what you're trying to achieve with your video. So effectively, you've got to begin with the end in mind. What's your goal? What are you trying to achieve? Your ultimate goal is to be selected onto the program. And to do that, the goal of your pitch is to explain your innovative idea to the assessor so they recognize the benefits that it will give to the health and social care. Perhaps you could start by asking yourself, this presentation will be a success if we. And as you prepare your script, keep asking yourself, how is saying this going to help to achieve the objective and outcomes that I want? And if it's not, take it out. To demonstrate this process, I'm going to share an example of a product that I've designed, or let's just say made up, that I'm going to use to pitch for a place on the NHS Clinical Entrepreneur Programme. In this example, I'm trying to explain the launch of a new online staff scheduling app that I believe will improve the NHS. My objective is to raise awareness of this new innovative cloud-based employee scheduling app for the NHS. Having identified your objective, you're now in a position to move to step 2, which is all about understanding your audience. You've really got to understand who the audience is. Reframe the topic from their perspective. What do they care about? Why does it matter to them? What's in it for them? What's a clear message that you want them to take away? What questions might they have for you? To create a successful script, you need to tailor your script to meet their needs and their wants. It's really important that you focus on what they need to know, not what you know. The best way to do that is to put yourself in their shoes and think about what matters to them. To manage your message, you really need to be able to answer the following 3 questions. Who am I talking to? Why am I talking to them? And for what desired outcome? You are talking to the assessor, and you're talking to the assessor to tell them about your innovative idea and how it will benefit the NHS. And your desired outcome is to secure a place on the programme. Once you've answered all of the above, you will then be ready to put pen to paper. But as you think about your audience, think about the questions they would want you to answer when you are delivering your video pitch. As they've explained in the application pack, they will want to know a little bit about who you are. They will want to know what you do. They want to know what the problem is that you're addressing. They want to know what your solution is. They want to know the benefits that you can offer them and why you should be given a place on the programme. You can't write an effective pitch if you're not sure who you're speaking to. You need to know your audience and their specific needs so that you can tailor your message to meet their needs. Let's go back to my app. I've already identified my objective. So who is my target audience? My target audience for my new app is a person who is assessing my application for a place on the programme. So how will I capture my audience's interest from the outset? I've got to think about a way that I can hook my audience in. What can I do to grab their attention from the outset? You can have some fun with a hook. It could be a funny story. It could be a startling statistic. Whatever it is, it's to get the audience hooked in so they want to listen to you. Having identified my audience, you now need to identify the problem. A good approach to take at this stage is to firstly tell them what the problem is. And by that I mean define the problem. Then tell them who has the problem or feels the pain. Then most importantly, paint a picture for the audience that explains how that problem makes them feel. Remember, at this stage, you are only trying to secure a place on the programme, so that high level of information is enough, provided that you are really, really clear on each of those points. So, what's the problem? Who feels the pain? And then paint a really clear picture of how they feel. And all the time, you've got to remember you only have 150 words in your pitch. So, if you've given 10 words for the hook, you've probably got about 35 words for your problem. Let's look at my problem. Thousands of exhausted doctors in the UK are considering leaving the NHS as many continue battle stress and burnout, largely caused by poorly designed shift schedules. Patient lives are at risk and costs are spiralling as the NHS employs more agency staff. Now that you've identified the problem, you need to be able to explain your solution in again around 35 words. At this stage, you are on roughly 80 words, so more than halfway through. As you answer these three questions, keep it nice and simple. What's your innovative solution? Why is it different? And why should people use it? Again, keep it nice and simple. You want the assessor to have enough information to make a decision about giving you a place on the programme. Going back to my example, what's our solution? Our app can save time and effort when redeploying staff, matching staff's skill set with patient care requirements, while managing working hours and pay to save clinicians time and effort every week. And finally, you need to have a clear call to action or your ask. What do you want the audience to do for you? If you've delivered a great pitch, you need to include your ask. Whatever it is that your business needs most, whether that's access to funding, whether that's feedback on your pitch, or whether, in this case, that's a place in the programme. The call to action will depend on the audience that you're pitching to. So if I pick two of my target audiences, the assessor, I'm looking for a place in the programme to develop our technology for health and social care, making sure everyone gets the right care at the right time. If I'm talking to an investor, I'm looking to secure investment. So let's put these 5 stages together in terms of my script. Thousands of doctors in the UK are considering leaving the NHS due to burnout, largely caused by poorly designed shift schedules. I'm Una McSorley, founder of ShiftDoc, an innovative cloud-based employee scheduling app, which we are currently piloting in the Belfast Health and Social Care Trust. Our intuitive, fast and easy to use app can save time and money when redeploying staff, matching staff skill set with patient care, whilst reducing clinician burnout and saving patient lives. I believe that with the support of the NHS Clinical Entrepreneur Programme, we can develop our technology for health and social care, making sure everyone gets the right care at the right time. I would welcome a place on this programme. That was 115 words delivered in about 60 seconds. Having come up with your first draft, you now need to edit your pitch. And the best way to do this is by reading it out loud, as the written word is different from the spoken word, and by reading out loud, you will be able to change your script to make it more conversational. If your pitch is overly formal, you could come across as wooden and uptight. Instead, make your pitch conversational, and your audience are much more likely to continue the conversation. Rehearsing your pitch out loud is so important. I always do a dry run with my colleague, And he's great at really challenging me about what I'm saying, because in an elevator pitch, every word counts. I will practice in front of a mirror, and I will also record myself on my iPhone, and then I'm able to listen to it back. And the reality is, we are our own worst critics. You're going to pick it apart. I could cut that, I could sharpen this, I could change that word. The more you practice it, the more confident you will be. We recommend rehearsing your elevator pitch out loud at least 10 times before you record it. Having scripted our pitch, we now need to look at how we can deliver with impact. It doesn't matter, as I said earlier, how good your content is. It doesn't matter how good your structure is. If you don't deliver with impact, the chances are you're not going to form that emotional connection with your audience. We all want to look our best on our 60-second video. However, we are not used to being in front of a camera, and we often struggle with the best way to present ourselves in a positive light, simply because we don't know how to do it. And this is particularly important when you think about your video, where it will probably just be you sitting there. There's not a lot of action, there's not a lot of creativity, and the panel are not expecting a technical masterpiece. You are not expected to use expensive filming equipment or to hire a film crew. And it's absolutely fine to record your video using your smartphone. So the question is, what can you do to draw people in? To do it right, there are a few technical tips to be aware of. And they're very simple tips that you can use to maximize your impact when you're recording your 60-second video pitch. And there are a number of areas that we do need to think about. We need to think about our body language, which has an impact on our energy levels. We need to think about the camera angle. We need to think about our dress and appearance. We need to think about lighting. We need to think about audio, and we need to think about our backdrop. Always useful to start with body language, because believe it or not, your body language can either make you or break you in front of camera. When we talk about body language in front of camera, what's important? And I have split it down into 4 key areas that you need to think about when performing in front of camera. The first is movement, and that's movement in both the seated or standing position, depending on what your preference is for your recording. Eye contact with the camera to ensure eye contact with the listener. Use of hands and ensuring that they don't appear on the screen. And finally, your voice and language skills. Movement in front of camera needs to be kept to a minimum. If you choose to stand to record your video, make sure you don't sway from side to side or do that classic heel-toe movement. Keep yourself fairly fixed, as you could move in and out of the camera frame. In the seated position, be careful that you don't sit in a swivel chair, because there's a high chance that you'll swivel on it. Slow down your gestures and keep your movements relaxed, and watch out for your facial expression or facial movements. So practice beforehand and see what works best for you. Keep your posture straight and avoid slouching to indicate attentiveness. If you're hunched down, shoulders back, it's going to give off this vibe that you don't really want to be there. Always remember to smile. Besides making you look relaxed on camera, smiling will also help to create a rapport with your audience. This rapport is key to the message you want to deliver. When you smile, it does something to your energy levels and the perception that the viewer has of you. If you want the viewer to think, I really like this person, versus this person isn't very exciting, you should try to smile as often as you can. Watch your eyes. Speak directly to the camera to make a connection with your audience. Always focus on the camera. You don't want to appear distracted or lacking in confidence. When you're looking at the little black dot, the camera at the top of your computer screen, your audience will feel like you're looking at them. Now, here are two examples of really bad camera framing. One, I get to see up the interviewee's nose, which is not a good look. And the other, we have the camera looking down on this interviewee, and oh dear, look at the mess behind him. If you're using your computer or your phone to film, raise them. The most flattering angle for the camera is to capture your face at the same level or a little above your face. Grab some books or a slim box, or use a laptop stand if you have one, and put your computer or your phone on top of it until the camera is right across from your face. Film landscape, horizontally is what I mean, rather than portrait. Keep the camera as stable and still as possible whilst filming to avoid those shaky shots. Hands are also really important as they can quickly become a visual distraction on camera. It's important to use your hands as they have an impact on your voice, your pace, your pitch, your tone, your variation. However, to avoid them becoming a visual distraction, we talk about lower peripheral movement. In other words, movement below elbow. So your hands should not be coming into the frame if you keep them below elbow height. If you want your audience to understand your message, whether you're presenting online or face-to-face, the rules are the same. Your language must be simple and clear. Use short words and short sentences. Do not use jargon unless you are certain that your audience understands it. To communicate a message effectively, you need to bring and use your voice properly. The way you sound as you speak can bring your words to life or sap them of their power. Think about how you sound to your audience. What about the tone of your voice? What about the pace? What about the volume? How well do you vary them over the course of your pitch? If you have ever listened to someone speaking in a monotone voice, you will totally understand what I mean. Another challenge from presenting is the use of filler words, such as ah, actually, obviously, so, you know, like, right, sort of. It's normal to use filler words in your everyday speech, but try to keep them to a minimum in your pitch. All they are is our brain trying to catch up with our mouth. And because we are frightened of silence, we lean on the filler word. And when we overuse them, they detract from our message. But the good news is you can eliminate them by replacing the fillers with pauses. The first step to changing any habit is awareness. Identify your filler words, and every time you catch yourself saying, actually, sort of, like, pinch yourself. Then every time you go to say your filler word, force yourself to be silent and keep practicing out loud. I know pauses aren't easy to embrace because even the briefest pause can feel like an eternity. That's because we tend to think faster than we speak, despite how they may feel at first. Well-placed pauses make you sound so much more professional. Not only does it give you a chance to breathe and center yourself, it also allows your audience to reflect on key points and helps to separate one section of your presentation from the next. It's also important to dress the part. Be comfortable and wear what makes you feel great. But what we found are that solid colours and simple fabrics work best on camera. When choosing your camera clothes, go for the ones with block or solid colours. When it comes to on-camera appearances, nothing beats a single solid colour. Since your camera appearance is also all about perception, you should think about the following when picking your clothes. Every piece of clothing sends a message. Dressing up in a rugged pair of jeans might cut it if you're all about fun and entertainment. However, the same won't cut it if you're shooting an official video to secure a place on an entrepreneurial program. Avoid clothes with large logos, creases, or patterned clothes that will easily distract your audience. Even though participants can usually only see you from the shoulders up, wear something that looks great on you from the waist up. In fact, the better you dress from head to toe, the better your posture will be and the better you'll feel in general. When you feel good, you're more relaxed and you're a more confident presenter. Here we have Will Reeve, who appeared on Good Morning America to discuss pharmacies using drones to deliver medication to people living in a retirement home in Florida. The real story was Will forgot to put his trousers on. Good lighting quality is vital to the end appearance of your video. Your camera is only as good as your lighting. That's because cameras see light and only light. They create an image based on the light that passes into their lenses. If there isn't enough light, the image comes out looking grainy, hazy, washed out, and generally poor quality. Make sure there is enough light where you are filming. There's nothing worse than barely being able to see the subject of the video. It's best to start with lighting because that will dictate where you're going to sit. Open your curtains and let the natural light pour in. Face your brightest source of light, usually a window. It'll look better for you and everyone else watching your video. Watch your background. What can people see behind you? An untidy bookcase, an unmade bed. Not so good. Walk around your office or your home and find a pleasant, not too distracting background. Audio is essential. We need to be able to hear you clearly. Record your video in a quiet space and try to eliminate static and white noise. And if you're able to invest money in your equipment, I would recommend you start with a good microphone. Having taken my content and shared with you how to create impact, I've pulled this all together and I've produced a 60-second video using my laptop and following the tips I've shared. Now, this is not a professional production, but I hope it will give you a feel for what you can do. And of course, we can have a chat in the Q&A section that will follow.
Thousands of doctors in the UK are considering leaving the NHS due to burnout, largely caused by poorly designed shift schedules. I'm Una McSorley, founder of ShiftDoc, an innovative cloud-based employee scheduling application, which we are currently piloting in the Belfast Health and Social Care Trust. Our intuitive, fast and easy to use app can save time and money when redeploying staff, matching staff skill set with patient care, whilst reducing clinician burnout and saving patient lives. I believe that with the support of the NHS Clinical Entrepreneur Programme, we can develop our technology for health and social care, making sure everyone gets the right care at the right time. I would really welcome a place on the programme. Thank you.
I hope that during the last 45 minutes or so, I have shared with you lots of tips and techniques to improve your video elevator pitch. So to recap, I've shared with you my 3-step guide to creating your 60-second video elevator pitch. And those 3 steps are based on how to write your script, how to structure your pitch, and of course, how to deliver it with impact. I believe that if you write and record your 60-second elevator pitch using the content, using the structure, and the delivery outlined, you will deliver an outstanding 60-second elevator pitch as part of your application process for the NHS Clinical Entrepreneur Programme. Best wishes with your application, and I look forward to taking your questions.
Thanks very much, Una, for a great presentation. I hope everybody online found that useful. It's definitely packed full of practical tips and advice that we can all use. So we're going to start our Q&A session. I'm just going to invite Una, if you want to just pop your mic on, and hopefully we'll be able to hear you okay.
Yeah.
Great.
I've
Una,
just
thanks very much. Yep, that's perfect. So we've had a couple of questions. We've had a couple submitted in advance and one that's just come through. So I'm just going to get straight into it. And if you do have any questions, just feel free to pop them into the chat using the questions function on the webinar panel. So Una, the first question is, how can I get the right balance between style and content? I'm worried about my pitch being too technical and not persuasive enough.
It's interesting there that generally comes up about style and content. And I'm a firm believer that if you get the message right, then you will deliver a confident and assured pitch. And I found from my own experience that most people appear nervous when they present because they don't really relate to what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're preparing and rehearsing your presentation, 90% of your effort should be focused on getting the message right. And by that, it means not only saying something interesting and relevant to your audience, but it's also about the way you structure your pitch so that it works for you. And it's much easier to be a better speaker when you talk about something that you really know and believe in.
Yeah, so the key thing there is the messaging, and then I suppose the style will follow that then, so it will.
Yeah, and I think the second part of that was about being too technical and not persuasive enough.
Yeah, but if it's too technical.
Yeah, I would always say to people, if you're worried that it's too technical, you're probably right. Because I always come back to the needs of the audience. You know, if you're talking to someone, you'd need to understand where they're coming from. How much of the technical language will they understand? And if you're concerned that they won't, then definitely take it out. And probably the best way to be successful in your sales pitch is to tell a story. Tell a story about your product or your service and what it's going to do, what difference it's going to make.
Yeah, so looking at the end user, I suppose, more than what's happening in the technical side of things. And again,
Completely.
I suppose because we've only got 60 seconds, you know, you can't really get into too much technical detail because you just don't have time for it, and that would be a waste of your precious seconds.
It would be. And, you know, really you should develop your own style for doing this and make sure that you're happy with the message you're delivering and that the person listening to you will understand what the real benefits are that you're going to add to the health service, because that's what they're interested in.
Yeah, of course. I suppose think about your audience and who you're going to be pitching it to. So the second question that we have, Una, and I suppose it does relate a little bit to the first again, is how much of the pitch should be about me and my experience, and then how much should be about the actual product that I'm developing?
Well, I think for this particular 60-second pitch, you need to establish your credibility very, very quickly. And I would be talking no more than a sentence on that. So I would have it relating to what my role is within the NHS, because everyone applying for this programme is working for the health service. So your credibility will be established simply by giving your job title and what your role is. But you have 60 seconds here. You've got to be able to convince the listener that you deserve a place in the programme. Now, I always say to people as well, when it comes to a pitch, I need, or you need to establish your credibility, because people buy from people. So I do like to know, and investors like to know a little bit about the person they're going to invest in, but they're more interested in what will this product or service do for them? What's in it for me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And again, there's a question that's just come in about timing, and again, relating back to this pitch, which is it's a 60-second pitch. Is it better to run overtime and undertime? And I have to say, watching your draft demo pitch, you know how quickly 60 seconds actually goes in. So is it better to run over or under?
If I'm given 60 seconds, I will take 60 seconds. I will not go over that. And so often, as you know, I do a lot of work with Invest Northern Ireland, with the companies that are preparing to go to pitch on the export market. And very often they are given a very, very tight timeline in which they're going to be invited to pitch. That might be 60 seconds, it might be 3 minutes. But if you overrun, you are eating into somebody else's time. And there is nothing worse than getting the tap on the shoulder just as you're about to deliver your pitch, to be told you couldn't cut it by 60 seconds. That's not possible for people who are inexperienced. So I would always say, aim it to come in exactly on time. And I know when I do my dry runs, I always come in, say I'm given a 3 minute, I would come in probably at 2.5 minutes in my dry run, because I know I will automatically slow down to deliver for real.
Yeah, when you're actually in the spotlight at that stage.
Completely, yeah.
Yeah. And again, that's, you know, especially with shorter pitches as well, well, with all pitches, but it takes back to some of your very practical tips about writing it out, rehearsing, looking at your word count, and really being confident in what it is you're delivering.
Completely. And enjoy it. That's the most important part. You've got to enjoy it.
Yeah. And someone actually has just put into the chat here, say it's a good idea to practice with family and friends if they understand, and there's a good chance the assessors will understand it also. And yeah, that's which brings it back to one of the earlier questions about being too technical.
Absolutely. I mean, if your family are not from your world in terms of where you work, and they understand the message that you're delivering, brilliant.
Yeah. Let me just have a quick scan. I don't think there's any other questions in, and we are coming very close to 7 p.m. So, you know, I think that's a wrap from the question and from our audience. Thanks very much again for your time this evening, Una. Thanks again to Invest Northern Ireland and to our audience for joining us. A copy of this presentation will be made available online afterwards, and we'll email you out with the details. But Una, for the time being, thanks very much, and take care.
Thank you, and best wishes to all the applicants.
Okay, absolutely. Take care. Bye.
Bye.